Just before I say the prayers, just to say that this is my last occasion as Mayor's Chaplain, and just to say what a joy and a privilege it has been to be Mayor's Chaplain over these past months and to be part of the civic life of the borough. So let us pray. We pray, Lord, for your blessing on all those suffering with the coronavirus, and give you thanks for all those, especially in this borough and in local services, who have supported and sustained us. We thank you for the skill and care of medical and nursing staff and all those key workers who have kept civil society functioning. Give wisdom to those politicians, national and local, who have to make decisions about how best to live with the virus, and help all people to play their part in controlling the virus. Keep us, good Lord, under the shadow of your mercy. Sustain and support the anxious. Be with those who care for the sick, and lift up all those who are brought low, that we may find comfort, knowing that nothing can separate us from your love. In Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We pray for our town and borough. Lord, Newcastle faces significant challenges due to the changing shopping patterns and the difficult economic situation we are in. Be with those whose businesses are struggling, and give wisdom and vision to those business leaders and politicians who have a responsibility for the future of our town. We bring before you, Lord, also those in the agricultural community as they face the uncertainties around leaving the European Union. Give them encouragement and guide those who are responsible for the future of agriculture in this nation and in this borough. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. And in this time of change in the mayoralty, we give you thanks for all the work of the retiring mayor and his consort in representing the interests of the borough, particularly in these challenging times. And we pray for your blessing on the incoming mayor as he uses his gifts and skills in this important role. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless this meeting. God bless our borough. God save the Queen.
Members, before we get the meeting underway, just to be aware, those members who are joining us on Zoom won't be able to hear you if you don't use the microphone. So it's really important tonight to use the microphone. You may find that lots of the microphones are currently in sleep mode. So please hold down the button until it flashes and turns itself on. Okay, and it'd be worth possibly doing that now. Thanks.
Members, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this evening's meeting after what seems such a long time without a meeting of the full council. Before we begin, I need to go over the housekeeping rules, which will be a little different from what we are used to. If any members present wish to wear a face mask or a face covering, please do so. If you need to leave your seat during this meeting, please ensure the safety of those around you by making sure that you wear your face covering. There are no fire drills planned for this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building immediately through the assigned fire exits. On exiting the building, please assemble at the rear of the building in the car park. Please do not re-enter the building until you're advised to do so. You all have received a note on meeting etiquette from the monitoring officer. This is a hybrid meeting with members in the room and attending remotely. It is more important than ever that we observe meetings etiquette and protocols. It is particularly important that members use their microphones when speaking, not only for members who are joining us remotely, but to meet the legal requirements that we can all be properly heard by members of the public and press joining us remotely. To use your microphone, please press the button at the front centre. When invited to speak, and please turn it off once you have finished speaking. Please avoid touching the microphone heads. If anyone is unable to hear clearly, please let me know. Most importantly, no member should speak unless I invite you to do so by name. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand high until you have been acknowledged. When you do speak, you must, for the benefits of those joining us remotely, make sure that the use of the microphone states your name before speaking. Because this is a hybrid meeting, extra care would need to be taken from the chair when managing debates and taking votes that is likely to take more than usual. I thank all members for your patience and your understanding. Finally, please could I ask you all at the end of the meeting to take your papers, any litter and any other personal effects with you. Please make sure you use the sanitizer provided to clean down your desks and any contact points such as the back of the chairs before you leave. This is part of the COVID safety measures designed to protect our officers who will be clearing the room and once the meeting has finished. Thank you. Before we commence with business on the agenda, I propose to hold a minute's silence for Alderman David Beckett, who sadly passed away in April. David was a councillor for this council between 2002 and 2015 and served as mayor during 2012 to 2013. He was appointed as an honorary alderman in September of 2015. I propose to hold a minute's silence to tribute to David, after which members who wish to speak will be invited to pay tribute. Can we please stand and observe a minute's silence for Alderman David Beckett, please? Thank you, members. Please be seated. If there are any members who would like to pay tribute to Alderman David Beckett, please indicate by raising your hand. Councillor Reddish.
Thank you. David was a true Liberal Democrat in every sense of the word, and he was a politician. But more than that, he was a very sincere, loving gentleman. And whatever his decisions were, he thought about them, and he very much believed in what he proposed. And I can say he very much had the Borough of Newcastle in his heart. As a personal friend, I miss David very much. Not least, I don't have quite so many emails and phone calls blasting me out. But I knew that whatever David said came from his heart. And whilst I didn't agree with everything he said, certainly he gave me some very sound advice. And so I hope our thoughts are with his wife, Anne. I understand there is going to be a memorial service after COVID, and I hope some of us can support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reddish. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to pay warm tribute to David Beckett as a former colleague, a political opponent, and as an alderman. I had the honour of serving with David for 5 years on the cabinet between 2006 and 10. I was leader, he was portfolio holder for the environment, and we took big steps then towards a new recycling system that got the borough from a recycling rate of only 17% up to 60+%, and that was through David's hard work and through his vision really to do that for us, which we supported him on. He was a political animal, I will say that, just as I am, and we used to have loads of conversations around the cabinet about political issues and, you know, by-elections and elections and stuff. But I also know, as Councillor Reddish has said, he was a true borough supporter and served as a mayor and thought a lot about the borough and its people and was working for its future. So sorry to hear of his passing. And because of lockdown, we were unable to pay the civic tribute to him that we properly could have done at the time. But I'm pleased that now at our first council meeting since then, we're able to do that. And I send my best wishes to Anne and the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Any more tributes, please? Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Chair. I knew David Beckett really as the perfect example of what a councillor should be. He fought constantly for the communities that he represented, but more than that, he was a really important member of those communities, supporting BAT, the Betley Amateur Theatre, running off at the chime of midnight in Betley to ring the bells. And I think one of my fondest memories of him was with a group of difficult young people who we were working with at the New Vic Theatre, who he made Borderlines one of his charities as mayor. And we all went out in the absolute pouring rain at the Brampton and planted a tree with Councillor Beckett. And he made sure that he spoke to every single one of those young people. And so for me, in terms of an example of what you should be like as a councillor, I can't think of anybody finer than Councillor Beckett. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Councillor Johnson. Just
if you hold it down, first of all. Hold the button down,
hold the button down.
If you like.
There we are. Oh.
I was fortunate enough to know David through the fact that he used to one of my
There we go.
I was fortunate enough to know David through the fact that his daughter Claire was one of my neighbours and would regularly have conversations with him when he was visiting both Claire and his granddaughter. I always found David a man of great integrity and great honesty as well. And I think in addition to remembering David, I think we as a council should also thank both Anne and Claire for the services that they've given to the borough by allowing him to serve in the manner that he did.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Anyone else? Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I speak on behalf of both of us in that the first time I met Councillor David Beckett was when he fought a ferocious by-election in Madeley some 8 years ago. And it was actually him that was responsible for getting you elected as a councillor back then. My memories are always of somebody that was very dedicated to what he did, and he was very determined in what he did. And I always remember at around 7 a.m. every morning, we got a knock on the door and his unmistakable voice shouting at us to let him in because he wanted to start the day's campaigning. And I think that was David Beckett all over. He will be missed, and we send our best wishes to his family and his wife, Anne. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Kieran.
Thank you. I'd first of all just like to echo the comments made by previous speakers. I think David, as a councillor and as a local politician, was part of a vanishing breed. He very clearly cared passionately about the community that he represented. But also, one of my main impressions of David is that he was a man of incredible principle. We sometimes find ourselves on different sides of political debates, and we sometimes find ourselves on the same side. But one of the things that was consistent in David's position was that he had a very clear moral compass and a very clear sense of his perception of right and wrong, and a clear set of principles that he stuck to, whether or not they were popular. And I think this council and local government in general would be in a much healthier position if we had a lot more people like David involved. And I think he is a sad loss to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kieran. Any more tributes, please? Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I got on really well with David Beckett. I thought he was a really nice guy. And I also had a lot to do with him with Newcastle of the World, as he was involved in that. As I was unable to go the other year in Japan, he was going to go for me in Switzerland. Unfortunately, it got cancelled, but he was going to go and represent us for Newcastles of the World in Switzerland. I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any more tributes, please? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. David, I knew David before I joined the Borough Council, and over the years, we've had some interesting conversations. I can always remember my first planning committee meeting with him, sat beside me, and the counsel that he provided was very sound and sage at the time. Since being a county councillor, of course, he lived in my division. I had lots of emails on a regular basis, and I used to think if I didn't get at least one email a week from David presenting some sort of request or balanced argument, I used to think there was something wrong, and used to miss that. I shall miss the input that he used to have. He was a great character. Politically, he was quite challenging at times, but I always found him quite fair and reasonable to talk to in a very pragmatic way. And I shall surely miss him on the council, even when he retired. I've missed him ever since. So not having him feeding into Bethley Parish Council and other forums that he was a part of, he will be sorely missed. I shall miss him very much.
Thank you, Councillor Northcott. Thank you, members, for those tributes. We will now commence with the business for this evening. Are there any apologies? No. Are there any declarations of any interest? Councillor Burnett.
Yes, can I declare a non-pecuniary interest on agenda item number 16, Kidsgrove Sports Centre refurbishment, as I'm on the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Noted. Thank you to members. Now, please turn to page 7 of your main agenda to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of February 2020. Councillor Simon Tagg, I understand you wish to move the approval.
Yes,
that correct?
Mr. Mayor, yes, unless there are any amendments, but I haven't seen any so far, so I'll move those as a correct record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And Councillor Sweeney, I understand you wish to second that. Is that true? Councillor Sweeney, can you turn your mic on? There we go.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are the minutes approved? Thank you. The next item of business is to elect a mayor for the 2020 and 2021 municipal year. I have been made aware of the one nomination, Councillor Simon Tagg. I understand that you wish to nominate Councillor John Cooper as mayor for the 2020/2021 municipal year. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's my great pleasure to nominate John Cooper to be the mayor of the borough for the rest of this council year. Yes, John first became a councillor in 1992 in Port Hill and was re-elected in 2004 and has served continually since then, representing Port Hill and then up to 2018. And since then, he's represented the Maybank ward. He's also a county councillor and heavily involved in the local community via Bradwell Lodge Community Centre and also Woolstanton Conservative Club. Though, of course, this will be a shortened year for the mayor and it will have disruption because of COVID-19. I have every confidence that John, assisted with his wife Angela, will do the borough proud as our mayor, and I therefore move the nomination of John Cooper for the mayor of the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, I understand you wish to second the nomination.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to add too much to what Councillor Tagg said, but I agree with every word he said. I think that Councillor Cooper has been an excellent mayor. He's been a loyal resident of his area. He's driven a lot of things forward, and I think he'd be an excellent mayor, and I'm very, very happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Are there any other nominations? No. Thank you. In which case, can I ask all members in favour of electing Councillor John Cooper as Mayor of the Council for the 2020/2021 municipal year to please raise their hands? Yes, can members on Zoom put their hands up, please, as well? Is that Mark as well? Yeah, it's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you to members having seen the vote in the room and online. The proposal is very clearly carried, and so it's my pleasure to announce that Councillor John Cooper is duly elected as Mayor of Newcastle under Lyme Borough Council for the 2020/2021 municipal year. Please join me in congratulating John and a round of applause.
The mayoral party will now retire for robing of the new mayor. All rise.
Good evening. My first duty is to make my declarations of acceptance. So I need to pick this up, but my eyesight's not brilliant. I, John Cooper, have been elected to the office of Mayor for the Borough of Newcastle under Lyme. Hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof, according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of the Borough of Newcastle under Lyme in the performance of my functions in that office. Thank you. Members may sit. I sign the book. Item 5 on the agenda is appointment of the Deputy Mayor. Next on business, the agenda item of number 5 is to appoint a Deputy Mayor for the forthcoming municipal year. I'm aware of 2 nominations. Clearly, with either Councillor Owen or Councillor Shenton, or not voting when you name your votes, please. At the end of this process, the person with the highest number of votes cast in his or her favour will be duly elected as the Deputy Mayor for the 2020-2021 municipal year. Mr. Dixon will please begin the vote. Oh, sorry. Could I ask for nominations, please? Councillor Proctor, please, first.
Mr. Mayor, I nominate Councillor Ken Owen for the office of Deputy Mayor for the year 2020-2021. I nominate Ken as an excellent councillor who works tirelessly for his ward. He is a well-respected member of the community, and not only in his duties as a councillor, but he works tirelessly at the one-stop shop and at Chesterton Community Centre, and I have no hesitation in recommending him for the job. He is, without doubt, more than capable and worthy of it.
Have nominations for Councillor Shenton, please. Oh, sorry, I apologise. Second nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment. Yes, I will second the nomination of Ken. I won't repeat what Councillor Proctor said, but obviously a community champion for his area and would make an excellent Deputy Mayor, and the Conservative Group will be supporting him this evening.
Thank you. Could I have nominations? Councillor Shenton, please. Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I please nominate Councillor Elizabeth Shenton for the role of Deputy Mayor? Since May 2006, Councillor Shenton has represented not only her own residents, but also residents across the borough as both the leader, deputy leader, and her former Deputy Mayor herself. I have no hesitation in nominating Councillor Shenton as somebody who will install the values of Newcastle across the borough, and I hope that members of the council will support me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have Mr. Councillor David Jones, please, seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to second the nomination of former Deputy Mayor, Councillor Elizabeth Shenton.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? No. Thank you, Ken Owen and Elizabeth Shenton have now been duly nominated for the position of Deputy Mayor for the Civic New Year. Because there are members both in the room and joining us remotely this evening, I intend to take this vote by way of roll call. I will now ask the monitoring officer to call out each member's name in turn in order for you to cast your vote. Please answer clearly whether Councillor Owen or Councillor Shenton, or not voting, please. At the end of this process, the person with the highest number of votes cast in his or her favour will duly be elected as a Deputy Mayor for 2020-2021 municipal year. Mr. Dixon, may please begin the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Burgess, please.
Councillor Shenton.
Thank you. Councillor Burnett. Councillor Mrs. J. Cooper, please. I heard Councillor Owen. Councillor J. Cooper, John Cooper.
sorry. Councillor Owen, please.
And the third, Councillor Cooper, please. Councillor Diamond. Councillor Fear. Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Grocott. Councillor Heath. Councillor Holland. Councillor Holland has voted for Councillor Owen. Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor Hutton. Another vote for Councillor Owen. Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Councillor Johnson. B. Johnson, apologies. Councillor Trevor Johnson. Councillor Jones. Councillor Kieran.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Lawley. That's another vote for Councillor Shenton, thank you. Councillor Maxfield. Councillor Owen, thank you. Councillor Moffat.
I'm voting for Councillor Elizabeth Shenton.
Thank you. Councillor Northcott. I have that as Councillor Owen. Is that right, Councillor Northcott? Thank you for confirming that for me. Councillor Olszewski.
Councillor Shenton.
Thank you. Councillor Panther. Councillor Parker. Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Proctor. Councillor Reddish.
Councillor Owen.
Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Rout.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Sweeney. Councillor John Tagg. Councillor Simon Tagg. Councillor Walklate. Councillor Waring. Joe. Thank you. The other Councillor Waring, please. Councillor Gary White. Councillor Simon White. Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Williams. Sorry, Mrs. Williams, apologies. The other Councillor Williams, please. And Councillor Wright.
Councillor Shenton.
Thank you, members. Bear with me one moment while we tally the votes.
Thank you, members. The results are 19 votes in favour of Councillor Shenton and 23 votes in favour of Councillor Owen. There's no absenteeism, I've been told of. Therefore, accordingly, Councillor Owen is elected Deputy Mayor.
Apologies, I have no wish to spoil Ken's moment, but those numbers simply can't be right. 19 plus 2 is 21 to start. I don't quite understand the maths. Well, even if it was 1, it still wasn't 19. 19 Labour members, and there was one that then voted Councillor Shenton, so it's partly 19.
To be clear, the two nominees didn't vote.
Thank you. Right, thank you. Would Councillor Owen like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, fellow members. I, Kenneth Owen, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor for the Borough of Newcastle under Lyme, hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof, according to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Unfortunately, because of the COVID security arrangements, I cannot invite the Deputy Mayor to sign the declaration book at this meeting. This will happen at a later date. But thank you again, Mr. Councillor. Yeah. Councillor Shenton, would you like to say a few words?
I have messaged Daniel Dickinson privately. I wasn't given the opportunity to vote. I know it wouldn't have affected the outcome, but I have got my hand raised and I have privately messaged Daniel to ask why my vote was not requested just.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Shenton. I didn't see the hand raised or the message while I was conducting the vote, I'm afraid, because my attention was diverted elsewhere. I'm not used to the nominees for the position voting, and I think I did hear the chair say that when he introduced the vote. But if I'm in error there, I do apologise, and I look to the chair to see whether he wants to take votes from each of the nominees and add those to the total.
Take the vote. Yes, I'll accept the vote, Councillor Shenton. That amends it to 20 and 23. Thank you. I got 23.
We'll ensure that's reflected in the minutes.
Yeah. I'll just see where I was informed. Right, thank you. My mayoral appointments. I now come to item 6 on the agenda, which announce my appointments over the coming year. My first appointment I wish to announce is that of Mayoress. I, John Cooper, hereby appoint Mrs. Angela Cooper to be my Mayoress for the municipal year. Thank you. My second appointment is to my High Constable. I, John Cooper, hereby appoint 2 High Constables because I will admit publicly my 2 grandsons that were asked independent, I hadn't got the nerve to say no to one of them. So I now appoint my 2 grandsons. One is Sean Cooper and Isaac Nixon as my High Constables for the municipal year. Thank you, boys. The next appointment is that of my chaplain. I, John Cooper, hereby appoint the Reverend Father Chris Routledge to my chaplain for the municipal year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the privilege of this appointment, and I gladly accept.
Thank you. Now, sorry, I was about to cough then. I now appoint my Mace Bearers. I, John Cooper, hereby appoint Alderman Chris Malkin as one of my Mace Bearers for the municipal year. And I'm delighted that Angela Mayer will be continuing to the role of Mace Bearers for the municipal year. Unfortunately not here because of COVID problems, as we all know. This is a very different meeting. But thank you for them, Mace Bearers. I've just passed a glass of water, thank you. I'm feeling rather dry. Now it's a vote of thanks for the retiring mayor and consort. Councillor Simon Tagg. Sorry. I'm turning 2 pages at once, I'm afraid. I must apologise. I must have a drink of water very shortly. Finally, I'm delighted to confirm that Cadet Bromley of Newcastle under Lyme 435 Cadet Squadron will be continuing as my cadet for the municipal year. Can we have applause, please? Vodka and tonic. Item 7 on the agenda provides me the opportunity to address members of the council and the people who have joined us remotely on my hopes and aspirations for the year of office. First, I would like to thank the council for electing me as Mayor of the Borough of Newcastle under Lyme. I'm very honoured and will commit to carry out my duties to the best of my ability with a polite and professional manner, as you would expect. The role of Mayor is a vital part of our borough heritage, and I promise to do my best during this next year to make the borough proud of our heritage. The role of Mayor is best. So here we go again. Thank you. Timed. The role of Mayor is ambassadorial role, promoting the borough and throughout the Staffordshire of wide and further afield, while importantly supporting residents of our loyal and ancient borough by recognising the work they do in so many different ways. I would now like to personally thank former Mayor Simon White for carrying out his duties with dignity and great enthusiasm. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm definitely dry. Item 11 on the agenda is I'm turning 2 pages at once, I'm afraid. Vote of thanks to retiring Mayor and consort. Thank you. I will invite Councillor Simon Tagg first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to thank Simon and Gary White for the work that they have done as the Mayor of the Borough and also the consort. What turned out to be a 16-month stint, didn't it, in the end? We obviously only imagine, who would have imagined the situation when we elected Simon as Mayor last May in 2019 and what was in store with the onset of the corona pandemic and all the upheaval that has happened because of that. From March onwards, obviously the morality has had to adapt. And I must say that Simon has done a wonderful job in doing that, using video, social media, and different ways of interacting as mayor with obviously the actual events not happening as they did before. And such things as the VAE Day celebrations with the mayoral address by video, which he did, which was, I believe, sort of shared around on social media a lot on Twitter and Facebook and everything, so everybody could see the mayoral address from the mayor. And also some social distancing events during when lockdown was beginning to ease off as well. I believe a little TikTok dancing as well going on at Aspire, outside an Aspire bungalow, with some residents there. And also commemorating just recently the Battle of Britain commemorations, again in a different way, but again still sticking up for the borough and representing the borough, which is a hallmark of Simon's year as mayor. He's kept the profile of the borough up and relevant during this period. And of course, we've united as a borough to fight the coronavirus pandemic in our local communities, and Simon has been a key part of that. And I'd like to say thank you to Simon and Gary personally for the support they've given me as leader during this period. A very difficult time for everybody, but I've really valued their sort of advice and counsel as well during this period. So I would like to propose a vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Simon White, and his consort, Gary.
Thank you. Would any of the members like to speak? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, without doubt, Simon has had a fantastic year. His enthusiasm, his drive and commitment as mayor of this borough is absolutely an example. He has, without doubt, raised the profile of the borough and the mayoralty to its highest possible level. He has been a credit to the position that he's held and much appreciated by many, many areas and sections of the community. He, I know, has thoroughly enjoyed his year, and it is shown with the effort and constant work that he's carried out throughout the year. He is a credit to the role.
Thank you. Ireland, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure what more I can add to Councillor Proctor's words, but I very much echo them. And for me, it was very apparent that the Mayor and the consort were very willing to support the less fortunate. And I know some examples where people who are less fortunate have very much appreciated the Mayor going to see them and supporting them. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, Simon, in particular. I think that's what I'm going to say, really, at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor Stubbs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a very quick thank you from the Labour Group to Simon. It's been a tumultuous time for you to be mayor. I don't think anybody would have expected the year that you've had. So thank you for that. I think there's very few people in this room, very few people in the borough, just probably people in this room that know the amount of work that goes in to be the mayor. So thank you for that. We hope you enjoy stepping down, take the rest, you've earned it. And thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call on the retiring mayor to respond to the vote of thanks. Oh, somebody else? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Councillor at the back. I forgot. I missed you there.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to add my comments to the aforementioned speakers, and I'll just say this one word: panache.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed your hand up there. I apologise. I now call upon the retiring mayor to respond to the vote of thanks. Try again.
No press at once. Yeah.
That's better. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper, and congratulations on becoming the Mayor of the loyal and ancient Borough of Newcastle under Lyme. As you know, this was my second term of office, an extended second term due to the current COVID situation, and has been a term of two halves, really. Up to March of this year, my term of office was going to be planned as we were looking forward to the main fundraising event on my charity ball in April, as well as the May handover. But of course, all this was abruptly stopped because of COVID-19. I received no mayor appointments other than a few virtual ones. I've now been able to start getting out and about again, and particularly focused on visiting and supporting people and organisations within the borough that have been really impacted by the lockdown and the shielding, such as elderly residents who have been isolated and shielded for over 4 months now. Also, people have struggled with their mental health during this time. Thanks to the many organisations who are doing their utmost in these uncertain times to support people. One of these that I've been supporting are the Tri-Services and SAFA, who are doing an excellent job at this moment in time. Also recognising our part of play in more national events, such as very recently the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, which I attended on this Sunday. I have held a number of charity fundraising events during the course of the year, including an open house and gardens events, also a curry evening and a Christmas fundraising. This has meant I've raised just over £4,000 for my charity so far. But the main fundraising was obviously the James Bond themed ball, which has now been postponed until the 30th of April next year and will run in partnership with our current mayor as a joint fundraising event. Thank you to everyone who's helped supported my fundraising throughout my term of office. There are just some quickly special thanks and recognitions to people I want to make a statement for. I wish to thank Gary White, my consort, for helping me in my term of office. I also want to thank Jim Worgan, my loyal mace bearer, who has not only carried out the mace with pride, but also accompanied me on a number of civic events and appointments, and has spoken with great knowledge of our history of the borough and its morality. Thank you, Jim. Also to Angela Meyer, the second mace bearer, who has also carried out the mace with pride. Thank you, Angela. And also Alderman Chris Malkin, who has diligently carried out the role of High Constable for me and again accompanied me on many, many, many events. Thank you, Chris. Also, lastly, to Peter Shaw, the Mayor's very loyal attendant, but now Sergeant, has always been there and helped both on major civic events, but also appointments in the community as well. Thank you, Peter. And finally, I thank you to the Mayor's Secretary, Jeff Durham, for all his help throughout the year. Thank you, Jeff. As none of these people can be here tonight, I will be holding a separate thank you and presentations for them at my home in the near future. Lastly, I was very pleased to be able to appoint the newly created role of Mayor's Cadet for the Newcastle 435 Squadron. This was duly approved by the Lord Lieutenant of Staffordshire. So, thank you for giving me the honour of holding the great office for a second time. I wish you all the best in your term of office, Mr. Mayor, together with your Mayoress. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda. This is an opportunity for me to make any announcements. I would like to make to the council beyond what I've already said in my address a few moments ago. I have two actually, but I'll start. I have a shorter term of office than normal due to current restrictions, but I look forward to any engagements that will be coming up. I would like to announce my Mayor's charity for the year. The Alice Charity, which many of you all know, does a huge amount of area to support families in crisis to ensure that children and families have access to food when they might not be able to afford it. I hope you join me in supporting this important charity. I have one more item. I would like to ask the council, please, it's just a begging this, I'm asking council, it's something that comes from quite deep in my heart on this. Would the council like to consider giving the freedom of the borough to the Royal University for the wonderful work they do for the residents? I really mean that because I think we all owe families, friends, ourselves, debt to the people, the workers of the Royal Hospital. I certainly do, and my wife certainly does. So I'm asking the council if they think about it, hopefully taking forward to give the hospital the freedom of the borough. Thank you. I now turn to item 11, invite the leader to appoint as deputy leader and cabinet for portfolios. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to reappoint Councillor Stephen Sweeney as Deputy Leader of the Council, and also Jill Waring, Paul Northcott, Helena Maxfield, Trevor Johnson, Stephen and myself as the same cabinet portfolios as last year. I'd like to thank my cabinet team and also the executive officers at the council for their support over the last few months, particularly during this difficult time. And I look forward to working with them as we chart our way forward through the next few months back into recovery. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 12, appointment of committees, chairs and vice chairs for 2020-21. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move these. Obviously, there's a notification there of the group leaders and obviously the change within the Labour group particularly. Obviously, welcome Mike Stubbs to the leadership team in the borough. Also like to thank Kyle again for his period as leader. Very short, but during the period which he was leader, I think, as I've said before, there was a lot going on, and I appreciate Kyle's support and the other group leaders' support during this time as we moved the council forward together. And making decisions for the good of all the council and all the people of Newcastle Borough as well. Also, I'd just like to obviously welcome a new group leader as well, Gary White, as leader of his group, and I look forward to working with him as well. But I'd like to move the nominations as they're set out because they have the support of all the groups and it's non-controversial. I think we come to chairs and vice chairs later. That will be a different matter, but I'd like to move the nominations as they are, and the outside bodies, of course, which were put in for 4 years a couple of years ago. So we don't need to appoint those. So we just note that they are appointed for 4 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney, like to second?
Yes, very happy. Very happy to second that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I now turn to appointments of chairs and vice chairs. Members will see the table of nominations that chair and vice chair roles of our 7 committees are contested by 2 nominees. I intend to take votes on these by first taking show of hands in the room, then roll call for vote of members. I'll now pass to the Chief Executive to mind the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first committee is Audit and Standards, and the chair and vice chair for Audit and Standards. And what we're going to do first of all is take a count of hands in the room, and then we'll do a roll call for members who are joining remotely. So 2 nominees for Audit and Standards, Councillor Pickup and Councillor Waring. So could I first have votes for Councillor in favour of Councillor Pickup, please, in the room? And could I have votes in favour of Councillor Waring in the room, please? Yeah. And can we now go, there's no abstentions in the room, so can I now go to members who are joining us remotely, and as I read out, if you can either say Councillor Pickup or Councillor Waring or abstain. So Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Pickup.
Sorry, Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Olszewski.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Moffat.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Burgess.
Councillor Pickup.
And Councillor Kieran.
Councillor Pickup.
So that's 19 votes for Councillor Pickup and 24 votes for Councillor Waring. So Councillor Waring is appointed.
Councillor Waring appointed.
So if I can now do the same for the Vice Chair of Audit and Standards, Audit and Standards. We have 2 nominations for Vice Chair, Councillor Ken Owen and Councillor Sylvia Diamond. And if we can do the same approach, if we can have a show of hands in the room, first of all for Councillor Owen. And a show of hands in the room for Councillor Diamond. And for members who are voting remotely, if I can do a name call again and say either Councillor Owen, Councillor Diamond or abstain. So Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Rout.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Olszewski.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Moffat.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Burgess.
Councillor Diamond.
Councillor Kieran.
Councillor Diamond.
That's 21 votes for Councillor Diamond, 22 for Councillor Ken Owen. So Councillor Owen is elected as the Vice Chair.
Councillor Owen, the Vice Chair. Thank you.
Move on, Chair. Okay. So the next vote is for the Chair of the Conservation Advisory Working Party, and I have 2 nominations for that: Councillor Gardner and Councillor Julie Cooper. And if we can do the same process again, if we can take votes in the room first of all, in favour of Councillor Gardner. And Councillor Julie Cooper. And if we can take the votes remotely, please. And if, when I call your name, if you can either say Councillor Gardner, Councillor Cooper or abstain. So first, Councillor Gardner.
Sorry, yes, Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Shenton.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Olszewski.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Pickup.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Moffat.
Councillor Gardner.
Councillor Burgess.
Councillor Gardner.
And Councillor Kieran.
Councillor Gardner.
So Councillor Cooper is Councillor Cooper. Okay. Councillor Cooper is appointed as chair.
Councillor Julie Cooper elected chair.
So Vice Chair of Conservation Advisory Working Party, again 2 nominations: Councillor Lawley and Councillor Trevor Johnson. And if we can take a show of hands. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I think both the leader and myself, as the leader of the opposition, are comfortable with the 9 votes at home being Labour votes. If the executive is all right with that, I believe myself and the leader are all right with that. It's up to the mayor as well, obviously. But if my 9 at home wish to change their votes, then they obviously need to tell me and then resign in the morning. So thank you very much.
So long as the members at home are content to progress on that basis. If anybody isn't content to progress on that basis, can you let me know? Show of hand.
Oh, thank you. We will accept that suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Studd.
There's nine. Yeah, yeah. We've got 9. We've got 9 at home. Okay, right. So everyone's consenting in the chat. We're finding our way here. So for the rest of the votes, we will do it on the basis of show of hands in the room. Okay. And take it as read that the votes away from the room are going with the Labour nominee. So votes in the room for Councillor Annabel Lawley. That's 11 plus 9. Okay. And for Councillor Trevor Johnson. Okay. So that's Councillor Trevor Johnson is appointed. Next committee is the Licensing and Public Protection Committee, and I have nominations for Councillor Simon White for the chair and Councillor Mark Olszewski for the chair. So if I can take Councillor Simon White first of all, please. And for Councillor Olszewski. Okay, so it's Councillor Simon White is elected chair. For the vice chair, I have nominations for Councillor Dave Jones and Councillor Graham Hutton. So votes, show of hands for Councillor Jones, please. And for Councillor Hutton. So that's Councillor Hutton is elected as vice chair. For the planning committee chair, I have nominations for Councillor John Williams and Councillor Andy Fear. So can I take votes first for Councillor John Williams, please? And for Councillor Andy Fear. So as Councillor Fear is elected chair. And for vice chair, I've got Councillor Reddish and, well, only Councillor Reddish. So that's unopposed. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Councillor Williams' nomination has been withdrawn. Okay. So Councillor Reddish is appointed vice chair. Health and Wellbeing, scrutiny, I have councillor nominations for the chair for Councillor Moffat and for Councillor Wilkes. So votes first of all for Councillor Moffat. And for Councillor Wilkes. So Councillor Wilkes is appointed. And for Vice Chair, I have nominations for Councillor Wright and Councillor Julie Cooper. And if I can take votes first of all for Councillor Wright. Councillor Robinson voting. And for Councillor Cooper. So Councillor Julie Cooper is appointed as Vice Chair. For Environment and Economy Scrutiny, I've got two nominations for Chair, Councillor Gary White and Councillor Dave Jones. Can I have votes in the room first of all for Councillor White? And for Councillor Jones. So that's Councillor Gary White is appointed. For Vice Chair, I have nominations for Amelia Rout and Councillor Haysom. Can I have votes first of all for Councillor Rout? And for Councillor Haysom. So Councillor Haysom is elected as Vice Chair. For Finance and Performance Scrutiny Committee, I've got nominations for Councillor Stubbs and Councillor Holland. So votes first of all for Councillor Stubbs. And for Councillor Holland. 23. And for Vice Chair of the FAPS Committee. Oh, sorry. That was Councillor Holland. For the Vice Chair of the FAPS Committee, I've got two nominations, Councillor Bert Proctor and Councillor Sarah Pickup. If I can have votes first of all for Councillor Proctor. And for Councillor Pickup. So that's Councillor Proctor is elected as Vice Chair. And I think that's it. Thank you, members.
Yes, thank you, members. That run very smoothly and quietly and efficiently. We got item 13. Changes to the Constitution. Members' Agenda 13 relates to the changes to the Constitution of the Council, and report can be found on page 19 to 96 of your agenda. Councillor Sweeney will move this item, and that will be seconded by Councillor Tagg. Please, Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this. This is something that should have come to Council sort of 6 months ago, but obviously it's the first meeting since. There's three sort of substantive items on it, one of which is change of financial regulation and procedures. Most of this is sort of crossing T's and dotting I's, really. The second one is the delegation of taxi licensing. Now, those who sit on licensing knows that taxi drivers are brought forward to the subcommittee for fairly minor infringements. Nobody on licensing feels that we're going to take somebody's license off them as a taxi driver for doing, say, a speeding 35 and a 30-mile-an-hour limit or something like that. But they do come to a subcommittee. Now, this creates work for everybody. The officers writing out reports, the taxi drivers taking time off work to come in, the members of the committee, and nobody is ever going to lose a license on this. This is what the subcommittee felt, the committee felt rather. So it seemed a pointless exercise. So what's this said is basically certain classes of things are now taken out of needed to come to committee. It speeds everything up. It stops wasting people's time. And this has all gone through, it's gone through licensing and it's gone through standards, and everybody was happy. There's no complaints on any of this. The final thing is that the monitoring officer in Newcastle, the monitoring officer, the 151 officer, director of resources and support is all the same person. So it doesn't make a lot of odds. But in the future, it might be a different person. The 151 officer might just be a 151 officer, and we might have a director of resources and support separately from that. So this is just basically saying that you go through the financial regulations and show the difference, so that when sometime it will happen, we'll have two people doing that role, and it just fills in the gaps really and makes everything sensible. And that's really it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Tagg, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, more than happy to second what Councillor Sweeney's proposed.
Can I take a vote on that now, please? Any abstentions? No. Oh, can I take a vote for, please? That's clearly carried. Yes. Now we got item 15, appointment of members to Chapel Hill Chorlton Parish Council.
Mr. Mayor.
14. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm turning pages over far too quickly. Item 14, I apologise. Urgent decision taken on April 28th of April 2020. Item agenda 14 relates to an urgent decision that was taken on April 2020. A copy of the report can be found on pages 97, 104 of your agenda. Can I show a vote, please? Any against?
Propose it, Chair. Mr. Mayor. Yep. Obviously, this, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This delegated decision was taken urgently, obviously, at the start of the lockdown to suspend the 6-monthly rule, which was supported by all group leaders at the time, and I believe was the right decision. We tonight are noting that decision and also deciding if we wish to extend it, the current dispensation relating to the 6-monthly rule of councillors attending meetings. I think that the current uncertainty that we have, and I believe I support it continuing, and will propose that we extend this 6-month rule suspension until the annual meeting of May 2021. And I formally propose that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Councillor Stubbs.
I'm not sure if you want me to second that, Mr. Mayor, but I'm willing to second that happily. I think it's imperative that councillors are allowed to shield if they need to shield. And I would hate to think that councillors would lose their positions because of the COVID virus and not underperformance. So my group happily supports this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Do we all support this? Show of hands, please. Thank you, it's carried. I'm sorry about this. I go back to item 15. I'll learn to take pages slowly in future. I must do that. Appointment of members to Chapel Hill Chorlton Parish Council. Agenda 15 relates to the appointment of members to the Chapel Hill Chorlton Parish Council and can be found on pages 106 to 110 of your agenda. Councillor Tagg wishes to move this item. Will it be seconded by Councillor Sweeney, please? Can you?
Do you want me to propose this? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I mean, I think we forgive you at your first meeting having the sticky fingers with obviously turning pages over. So we aren't thinking any less of you for that in your first meeting. It comes to us all. I think I will move this one. I think it's self-explanatory. There are issues which has led to the 7 councillors on the parish council in Chapel Chorlton and Hill Chorlton Parish Council to resign. As you will see there, the Borough Council uses its powers there to get things back on the road there. And as you'll see, the delegated authority to our monitoring officer there to do that. and also to appoint, interim borough councillors for the area. Of course, it is only a one-seat ward, so we can't really have Graham sitting there on his own as the only councillor on the parish council. So we're bringing in, obviously, neighbouring ward councillors who were in the ward until the boundary changes recently. Paul Northcott and Barry Panter be appointed on a temporary basis to take us through to the elections held on 2021, I think that should be. Is there an error in the report there? 6th of May 2021, not 2020 as it says. Yeah. So moving that recommendations there, I think it's just in the reasoning where it's got the wrong year, but in the recommendation it's correct. And I move those recommendations to get the parish council up and running again so local democracy can continue in this area.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Any other members wish to speak? No. Does the leader wish to respond, Councillor Tagg?
Just, I think we should take the vote that we're all in favour, Mr. Mayor.
Can I show hands in favour, please? That's carried. Item 16, Kids Grove Sports Centre refurbishment update. Agenda item 16, replace refurbishment of Kids Grove Sports Centre and be found on pages 111 to 115 on your agenda. Councillor Tagg wishes to move this item. That will be seconded by Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Tagg, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really pleased to bring this item tonight. It's the culmination of a lot of effort by a lot of people, which can be traced back to July 2017, when this Conservative group on the council called a special council meeting to debate the recent closure of the Kids Grove Sports Centre. Since taking control of the council in December 2017, we've been working closely with the community group, county council, and recently our construction partner, Wilmot Dixon, to get to the stage where we have a costed, affordable plan before us tonight. It hasn't always been easy, and there have been many mountains to climb, and then lockdown had to be overcome, as well as we've kept the foot on the gas throughout the last 6-month period. I'd like to thank the community group of volunteers who have worked tirelessly on honing their plans for the centre, which include a sports hall, gym, swimming pool, and also our officers for the work that they've done on this project, working with partners as well. We've now costed a proposal of 5.998 million, and the project funding is in place to make it happen, using a contribution from the County Council and from Advanced Town Funding Deal to get the refurbishment work underway before the end of the year. And allotted funding in the Council's capital programme to complete the project for the opening to be run by the community group in early 2022. We're seeking extra funding from Sport England via the Kids Grove Town deal to put into the scheme to hopefully lessen the call on the council's capital. The finance details are set out in 7.2 of the report for everybody to see. There was a cross-party panel which I convened in the spring which involved all the Kids Grove ward members from all parties, and also the group leaders from the groups on the council, and they met throughout the lockdown and had a meeting or two before as well, and agreed the progress we've made, and also supported this paper that went to Cabinet, which is attached to the agenda tonight, and had all cross-party support. And what we've achieved, what we will achieve by refurbishment of Kids Grove Town Centre, and it will excuse me, Mr. Mayor, will create a quality multi-sports facility which includes swimming and can be used by the residents in the whole north of the borough, and one that is so badly needed for the health and well-being in Kids Grove. So I've no hesitation of recommending to the council that they support this project this evening, and also ask Mr. Mayor if we could have a roll call vote on this. It's not a named vote, but I think a roll call vote to show full council support for this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the recommendation?
Yeah, I would. Great pleasure in second this. It might point out this is the north of the borough, but it's also sort of South Cheshire. The north is Stoke. There's lots of people who can use this facility. But I don't want to let this pass really without praising the leader of this council, because without his drive and enthusiasm, I think this might not have gone quite the way that it has gone. So I think he's too modest to say for himself, but I think he deserves a vote of thanks as well. But it's an excellent facility, and I think it's something that Kidsgrove needs again, the north of the borough needs again, and well done to everybody. You know, the working party, the Ilcos party, the people in the community, ourselves, our officers, everybody else for bringing this dream and this vision around. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I understand other councillors wish to speak, as is Councillor Jill Waring, Paul Waring, Jill Burnett, Councillor Studd, Alan Maxfield and Gary White. Yeah. I will invite these in order, with the exception I'm going to give the Leader of the Opposition first choice, Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I welcome this on behalf of the Labour Group and the residents of Kidsgrove? It's been hard fought for over the last few years. It feels like more than a few years. It feels like several years, but we seem to be getting somewhere, which is great. Can I implore the council support this tonight? It's imperative that the capital funding for this project is put forward. I think, as has been pointed out by the Deputy Leader of the Council, this isn't just about the residents of Kidsgrove. This is about people from Cheshire, from Stoke-on-Trent, and indeed from the northern areas of Newcastle and Lyme. So can I fully support this tonight? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the sports centre was opened in 1976, and I think that was one of the hottest summers on record, when there was wall-to-wall sunshine and there were long queues for the swimming pool. I worked there on reception in 1981 when there were long queues continued, and it was still in demand when it closed in 2017, and the people of Kidsgrove have been lost without it. So, I cannot wait to see it open again. And I would like to thank every single person who has worked so hard to get to this point. And I know that some of the Kidsgrove councillors of 1976, and I'm talking about Mavis Lynch, John Lockett, Jack Beach, all Labour councillors, and Nora Salt, one of ours, would be so glad to see that the decision to close it has been reversed. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a Councillor Paul Waring, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased with the progress that's been made by all parties in connection with the sports centre, and I hope that progress with the works can go forward without any hitches. The centre is going to be significantly better than we originally envisaged a couple of years ago, and I trust that the committee, the community group and the people of Kidsgrove will be suitably pleased with the end result. And I'm very pleased that everybody's working together on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jill Burnett.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On the 30th of June 2017, the doors closed on Kidsgrove Sports Centre. Since then, Kidsgrove Sports Centre Community Group have worked tirelessly to raise money to get this centre reopened, with help from Staffordshire County Council, Newcastle Borough Council and Sport England, to name but a few. So I welcome this paper and fully support it, and look forward to finally seeing this project move forward for the people of Kidsgrove. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Helen Maxfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support this. I think it's tremendous work from the community group. It's supported by residents and the community groups around. They've thought of accessibility for all, and now due consideration that this is going to be put into place. We're in a good place now with a scheme we can support and fund within an acceptable timescale for such a large undertaking. I think the sooner it's started, the sooner it can open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gary White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that I'm fully supportive of this as well in its current format, and welcome it for the borough. However, I do have a concern, and that is one of the financial commitments. We have seen escalating costs for this project over the last few years, and in particular during this fiscal year. It has increased from 5.6 million to 6. So what I would like to ask is the leader able to give this council any sort of assurance that there will not be any further increases and burden on the financials of this council, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Robson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that as part of the working group, along with Councillor Sylvie Burgess, Councillor Sylvie Diamond and Councillor Mike Stubbs, we as members of the Labour group were given an opportunity to go through the risks, go through the plans and the proposals that were being put forward. And actually, for a change, we had a grown-up conversation about some of the issues that needed to be dealt with. And the priority was to get Kidsgrove Sports Centre reopened. The other options, unfortunately, at this time just weren't viable from what was put forward. That was quite clear. I want to congratulate the community group. I haven't always agreed with everything that they've said and done. As certain members, I don't always agree with them. But what I would say is that in the past 12 months, they have worked incredibly hard with the council and before that, but I mean with us on the working group, to make a clear case for provision of sport and leisure in Kidsgrove. And Kidsgrove do deserve that. I note just the comments about the issues around the escalating costs. To be honest, we've lost so much since the centre closed, unfortunately, and many generations coming up in Kidsgrove have missed out. So now it's time to make sure that we get what we deserve in Kidsgrove, and that is investment in sport and leisure through this council, through government funding and any other sources of funding that are available. And I will be voting for the recommendations as they've been put in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the leader like to respond, please, Councillor Tagg?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for all those comments, and I think particularly we shouldn't talk about it being a facility for Stoke North and for Cheshire East, or else I'll be on the phone asking for some money off them to go into this. I'm acutely aware, and I sort of have shared the concern throughout the summer of Councillor White on this. And I think anybody knows that's been involved in this project and I know the community group and their treasurers, members will be. We need to treasures. Their members will be watching this broadcast tonight, and they know I've really put the thumb screws on them for this at the moment to get to this sort of costing exercise. And I think, as I said, to reassure all members as well as Councillor White, we are looking for other streams of funding, and I think through the town deal and also our MP for Stoke North, Jonathan Gullis, is got the thumb screws on Sport England as well to get some funding in there as well. And also the community group themselves have had some really good conversations, because I think you're right, Councillor White, the price could start to go up with fitting out the sports equipment inside. So what the community group are doing, they're already talking, for example, to the Tennis Association, and they're getting a grant off of them for equipment, and also to the FA. That's just a name, but two, there are many other irons in the fire for them to bring in that cash. That means we don't have to go up, and I'm intending that we don't have to go up any higher. And I think this is because we've spent the time over the summer really finalising these costs and finessing them as well, that I don't see any sort of need for it to go any higher than within the budget we are. And if we can get in funding from outside, further funding, that will, as I say, sort of take the pressure off the capital sum the council is putting in. So hopefully that reassures. But I think all members from across the board have been reporting. I think we're putting right or wrong, really, which took place in 2017. Whatever the politics, what we've done is we've worked. It's taken time, but we now have a time scale within this plan to get the contractors in before Christmas, get the work started on that, and then obviously a completion date on the refurbishment at the end of 2021 for the community group then to reopen it to the public with swing provision. That was the thing we weren't going to do straight away right at the beginning. We're doing that along with the rest of the refurbishment now, which gives the facility for Kidsgrove, as I said, that they deserve, and we can do it for that cost, I believe, and that's what we'll be working for with the community group once we progress forward after this decision tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. For this item, I will take a vote by roll call and now ask the monitor officer to read out members' names called, please say for, against or abstain.
Take this one, Chair. Councillor Burgess,
For.
Councillor Burnett, Councillor J. Cooper,
For.
Councillor Mrs. Cooper, Councillor Julie Cooper, Councillor Sylvia Diamond, Councillor Fear, Councillor Fox Hewitt, Councillor Gardner,
For.
Councillor Grocott, Councillor Heesum, Councillor Holland, Councillor Hutton, Councillor Johnston, Brian Johnson, Councillor Trevor Johnson, Councillor Jones, Councillor Kieran, do we have Councillor Kieran?
Yes, for.
Councillor Lawley, Councillor Maxfield, Councillor Moffat,
For.
Councillor Northcott, Councillor Olszewski, Councillor Owen, Councillor Panter, Councillor Parker, Councillor Pickup, Councillor Proctor, Councillor Reddish, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Wright,
For.
Councillor Shenton, Councillor Shenton,
For.
Councillor Stubbs, Councillor Sweeney, Councillor John Tagg, Councillor Simon Tagg, Councillor Walkley, Councillor Waring, Jill Waring, Councillor Paul Waring, Councillor Gary White, Councillor Simon White, Councillor Wilkes, Councillor Jill Williams, Councillor John Williams, Councillor Wright.
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. I declare the resolution is duly passed. Item 17 is leader's statement. Agenda item 17 is receive the leader's statement. A copy of the statement can be found on pages 111 to 119 of the electronic agenda. The report has been tabled this evening for those attending in person. Councillor Simon Tagg, would you like to move the statement to be discussed?
Thank you, yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I will just have to make 2 points in addition to the leader's statement. I'd like to thank the officers tonight for making this meeting happen, both virtually, which is no mean feat also, and getting all to work together, and also for in the room to create a safe environment for us to meet. I think that's a credit to the officers, and I've done as the group leaders wished, and I think it's been a very good meeting so far. I expect it to end very well as well. So I think that thanks from me to Martin and to Dan and to the team and to Dave Alkington, who is of course sitting in an anteroom here being the Hollywood producer for this, which a thank you to you, David, as well for the hard work you've done. Secondly, I'd just like to update on item 2 really on the coronavirus obviously pandemic and recovery. We know the announcements of the Prime Minister and the government over the last couple of days. I think our job really is to provide reassurance to our residents of the support we've provided throughout this and done very well at doing over the lockdown period and going forward. And also I think supporting businesses as well, and also supporting our businesses in our town centre who are going to be really worried and concerned about the return of lockdown. I think our job is to help them as we are doing, and to let them shops particularly open in a COVID secure way, and also to ensure that our residents are safe. So I just wanted to add that, Mr. Mayor, but I'm willing to take questions or comments on the leader's statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Paragraph 1, cabinet meetings, excluding items. Oops, I've slept one. I'll go back. We will take the statement of paragraph at a time. I will allow the leader or relevant cabinet portfolio holder to respond to any comments or questions before moving to the next paragraph. I will take comments or questions 3 at a time on the same paragraph. If I can remember members, this is not a debate. Once a leader has responded, there is no right for members to reply. Thank you. Paragraph 1. Cabinet meetings, excluding the items that are covered by the paragraphs below. Do members have any comments or questions on this? No questions? Shall I move on? Paragraph 2. The virus pandemic and recovery getting back on track. I'm aware that Councillor Paul Waring and Graham Hutton and Barry Panther wish to speak on this. Paul Waring first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Cabinet minutes on the 22nd of April mentions that in a worst case scenario, were the government financial support to be insufficient, consideration would be given to formal actions, including the Section 151 officer issuing a Section 114 notice. And this is also something that's being discussed in the Audit and Standards Committee meetings as well. Could the Cabinet member update the Council with what monies have been received from central government in order to alleviate this problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that the Borough waste collection teams have continued to serve the community throughout lockdown and beyond, including garden waste collections. I would like the portfolio holder, Councillor Trevor Johnson, to thank the waste collection team for the excellent new recycling bins, a great advance upon Labour's shambolic system. I'd also ask him to convey our thanks to the collection crews for their work, as they are also key workers. Finally, can I ask how Newcastle compared with other local councils? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Panther. Thank you. Can the council leader answer them three? I've got one more afterwards.
Okay, I will nominate as requested Councillor Sweeney to do the first one, Councillor Trevor Johnson to do the second one, and Councillor Northcote to do the third. Thank you.
Sweeney, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Waring, for the question. Yeah, a few months ago, we didn't really know where the money was going to come from, and there was quite full and frank discussions about the future of this council. However, lobbying with the MPs, speaking to the LGA, speaking to the District Council Network, speaking to anybody really who got the ear of government, telling us what position little councils like ours, district councils, the problems we're facing, because we raise a lot of our money that we spend. It's not on grants. We have to raise it, and obviously our income streams are dried up. So a few months ago, we didn't know which way the future is. However, the government, to their credit, listened to us and responded. And at the moment, I'll tell you where we are at the moment. We've had £1.292 million, with another 215,000 on top of that, making £1.573 million. Now, this is all extra money that we needed. There's also a scheme coming in where any losses we lose against our budget, we lose the first 5%, but after that, 75% of it gets paid back from central government. So things like car parking, which obviously is not a royal success at the moment, is made up for that. And finally, you've heard about giving out business grants. We've been talking about giving out £5,000, £10,000, £25,000 grants. There's a cost involved in that, and the government gave us £170,000 to run that scheme. So at the moment, we're looking at about £3.5 million coming in government support, and that really, really makes a difference to a council of our size, and it puts us on a much, much more stable footing and gives us a good future looking forward. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Waring. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I have put a press statement out thanking all the staff involved, so the people of Newcastle know what's been going on. I can just tell you this about the new service, though. We're several weeks into it now.
Councillor Johnson, can you speak into the mic, please?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Is that better? Okay. You know, we're several weeks in, and I can report that our average tonnage that we're collecting is standing at 200 tonnes a week. And the previous service yielded 160 tonnes at best. So in simple terms, we're up 20% with the new system. You get onto the garden waste. Yes, you asked to get about the garden waste, didn't you? Now, over 21,000 residents have signed up this year. And we are now collecting the same amount of garden waste as we did when it was a universal service. Even during lockdown, we managed to keep the service going, and we were the only authority in Staffordshire to do this. And we also had tremendous increase in tonnage, and we had to do this with up to 25% less staff at the start because of the shielding and stuff that was going on. But you know, we're still encouraging people to put this in. We're getting more. I'm just trying to think. In the north of the borough, the collections have gone through the roof. We are really collecting good quality recycling material from there. Okay.
Could Councillor Panther please repeat the question on the last question? The question was not understood by all. Could you repeat your question, please? Thank you. Would you like to answer that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Panther, for that question. I can actually categorically say that since we took over administration, the planning department has gone through some major changes in terms of staffing and reorganisation of the work priority streams. During the COVID-19 crisis, I can report that we were one of the first councils to move to virtual meetings, which has been facilitated by the staff there that were adapted quickly to agile working from home, and this made it possible for applications to be processed in a constant and efficient manner. The internet platform has enabled the planning committees to meet during this, and I'm sure the chair of planning, Councillor Fear, would echo this in terms of the way that that's been successfully conducted to allow the council to conduct its business during lockdown and the subsequent re-emergence from lockdown. In terms of performance, we're in the top percentile of the council planning department, and just recently we've managed to achieve 100% in both majors and non-major applications. During this time, it's also been the opportunity for the planning department to introduce a pre-validation checking scheme to enable the quality of pre-applications and applications to be checked at source. Obviously, there's a slight income there for the council, but this will make sure that the quality of applications are taken through at the first stage to allow them to progress through the planning system as smoothly as possible. Also, the local planning enforcement plan has been updated, and it was last done in 2009. This will give members and the public more confidence in the fact that breaching planning control are going to be now investigated with vigour. Each case officer will be assigned their own enforcement tasks, should that be appropriate. And of course, members will be continuing to receive their weekly emails in terms of any enforcement action in their particular ward. So I can categorically to reassure Councillor Panther that the planning department is in very good health under the steership of our excellent head of planning, Mr. Sean Fleet, who's been magnificent throughout this. And I can also report that we've got a healthy 5-year land supply going forward, which we all know leaves us subject to development in appropriate areas where that hasn't been the case. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll invite the fourth council, please. Well, can you, Mr. Jones, Councillor Jones, can you ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're fully aware that a number of residents have either died or lost loved ones to the coronavirus. I wonder if the leader would be willing to commit to a memorial in the borough to those we've lost during this crisis.
Councillor Tag, would you like to?
You said earlier, Mr. Mayor, there's a lot of ways we can commemorate really this, and we're not through it yet, are we, Councillor Jones? But I think it's something we need to look towards, and just as your suggestion of honouring the emergency services and the hospital, etc. I think what we need to do is begin to think of that as we emerge from this. And I think, yes, it isn't over yet, and let's get through the worst of this, and then we can look at that as a council to working with our partners as well to commemorate those that have lost their lives.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Paragraph 3.1, new CTV system, Newcastle Town Centre. I'm aware that Councillor Jill Heason wishes to speak. Are there any other members who wish to speak and raise comments? I will take 3 questions at a time, please. Thank you. Councillor Jill Heason.
I welcome the investment in CCTV to help make our town centre as safe and secure as it can be. Are there any plans to expand the coverage? I'm particularly thinking of our subways.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Tagg.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thank Councillor Heason for that. And of course, it's great that we've got our new CCTV system in partnership with the bid in place. And of course, we are looking to expand it. And later on the agenda, we've got the advanced town deal piece, which is about bringing in extra money, up to £1 million for Newcastle. We hope to in the next few days about that. And in there, we have some money for expanding CCTV, particularly into those subways. And we're thinking of the Sunken Roundabout subway, which we get on Grosvenor Roundabout, which we get a lot of complaints about and a lot of antisocial behaviour. So there's a job there we can do, not only with CCTV, but to increase the safety and also the way the subways look as well, so that they become attractive to use and safe to use. So just to confirm to Councillor Heason, we have got some plans for expanding the subway, the CCTV into the subway areas in Newcastle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Paragraph 3.2, joint housing allocation policy. Wish to speak on this? Are there any other members who wish to speak on, to raise comments or questions on this paragraph? Councillor Brian Johnson, please.
Yeah, it's very clear that Aspire are key partners in our housing capacity here in Newcastle and the Lyme. However, over frequent months, I've had residents raise issues with me about the lack of family homes available for families to move, including one family who had been recommended to move by the police because of an assault on their child by a neighbour. Will the leader work closely with Aspire to kind of streamline their system in those circumstances, in order for those properties to be found urgently for families? And I'm looking at the home hunt system as we speak today. There are only currently 2 properties within the 20-mile radius of this building that would be available to anybody looking for a home.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg, would you respond?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the question, Councillor Johnson. I think, through this joint housing allocations policy, it enables us to work closely with Aspire. I know there are issues which have come out of the fact that we had 2 separate lists that wasn't really accommodating the needs of those wanting to find accommodation in the borough. So I think really it can be assured through this that there is a close working relationship with Aspire, and that's getting even closer all the time. But again, we are here to also hold them to account on behalf of our residents. So I think if that case, you could pass that on to our portfolio holder, Helena Morris. Helena Maxfield. Morris gone back 10 years. Helena Maxfield, sorry again. I'm sure that she would be happy to take that up on your behalf and your residents' behalf.
Paragraph 3.3, antisocial behaviour policy review. Do members any comments or questions? No, no. Paragraph 3.4, air quality, A53 buzz refit, excuse me, contract. I'm aware that Councillor Mark Holland wishes to speak. Do any other members wish to raise any comments or questions? Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome the awarding of the bus retrofitting contract. Can the leader confirm that it is still his administration's position that we must work very carefully and very actively with all of our partners to prevent the introduction of a chargeable clean air zone in our borough, as that would be disastrous to the health and economic health of the borough?
Thank you. Any questions? No.
Mr. Mayor, coming back on that, because I think Mark asked me the question there, I can completely agree with what he says. And I know when he was on Cabinet, he was a vocal critic of this, and the Cabinet still have that position that we wish to avoid a chargeable clean air zone, which would be a disaster for our local economy, even more when it's under pressure from the issues we've got at the moment. But I think because of the issues we've got at the moment, the government have recognised that things have changed, and we are reviewing that part of this. But I think what we've got before us here is a delivery of a scheme that can help to reduce that problem on the A53 Basford Bank area. So welcome that Cabinet made that decision, and that has been implemented now to get those buses retrofitted.
Thank you, Simon. Paragraph 3.5. Pre-validation checking scheme. Do members have any comments or questions? No. Item 3.6, local planning enforcement plan. I was aware that Councillor Hutton wishes to speak. Do any other members wish to raise any comments or questions? Councillor Hutton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had a number of planning breaches brought to my attention during lockdown. I'd like the portfolio holder, Councillor Northcott, to thank the staff for the speed at which they responded to each and every instance I brought to their attention. In particular, the new enforcement service seems to be robust, as each breach has subsequently been in my monthly notice as actioned. So please add our thanks to the new head of planning, Mr. Sean Fleet. Thank you.
Thank you. Simon?
That's that to Councillor Northcott if he wishes to answer.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hutton, and I will duly pass your comments and thanks on.
Paragraph 3.7, Future High Street Fund and Advanced Town Dealing Funding. I'm aware that Councillors Andrew Parker, Jill Burnett and Mike Stubbs wish to speak. Does any other speakers wish to speak? No? Right. Can Councillor Andrew Parker please ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome the news of the Future High Street. I was in town a number of times, and it's always good to see how busy it is, and always very pleasant atmosphere. Everybody seems to be obeying social distance rules. Hopefully, with the extra money coming from the Future High Street Fund, town centre will get even better. But the leader update the council with the latest position with respect to this.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Burnett, please.
I'd just like to say that the Future High Street funding and the Advanced Town Deal funding is long overdue. The start-up Advanced Town Deal funding for Kidsgrove Sports Centre for preliminary works, the King's School for 3G sports pitches, Clough Hall Park upgrading the park facilities and Chinky Pump Park track are much needed and welcome by all and long overdue. And I'm really glad that this has been brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Stubbs, please.
The question is already tabled, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Online.
I believe the leader's not been passed it, so I will ask the question. It's basically, can the leader confirm whether or not we've had the acknowledgement of the advance fund yet? And if not, what date he expects to find that out? Thank you.
Thank you. Was one online? That's all right. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you. I'm glad that this has generated some questions and comments. I think this is a good both parts of this, the Future High Streets Fund and the advanced funding. Dealing with Councillor Parker's comment first, I agree with you that anybody that's gone into the town centre and seen the market and the Sunday markets has seen an advancement there. And I think the lockdown situation, if it's helping anything, is helping people to stay local and they're shopping in our town. So that's great. And on the back of that, you asked the question about the Future High Streets Fund, and obviously we put a really good bid in there for the town to redevelop the Rycroft area, and we're hoping to hear from the government in the autumn. We're into the autumn now, so we're putting in good words all over the place. We're getting our MPs to lobby. I was with the new minister for on Teams, obviously, the new minister for local government, Luke Hall, I think his name is, and I plugged obviously our Future High Streets Fund bid, and of course Robert Jenrick is in the decision-making process on this as well, so we're lobbying him too. So hopefully we will hear, and hopefully we can get that regeneration up and running in the town, which will help it even more. And one of the main parts of that Future High Streets Fund is to get people living in and around the town centre more, which will help businesses and bring people in. I mean, Jill Burnett, nothing more to say there. You outlined the list of projects in the Kidsgrove advanced funding, and that would be great to use that money for those things you said, to kickstart the Kidsgrove Sports Centre project, to do that youth facilities and that health and wellbeing facilities in Cloughall Park and up in Newchapel Recreation Ground area, Chinky Park. So I think we welcome that. As for Mike, the question I understand now is an update. I think we're going to hear imminently, Mike, and I think probably tomorrow could be the day when we hear. But I'm understanding that we're in a very good position to get that funding. That's 750,000 for Kidsgrove and £1 million for Newcastle as an advance payment as part of the town deal. And of course, we are working on the bigger town deal plan, which both Newcastle and Kidsgrove, through their boards, and I know there are members in all parties here tonight that are on those boards, are working away to get those bids in for that full, slice of that 25 million. But to answer the question of Councillor Stubbs, yes, we're going to hear imminently, and I hope it is good news, and I believe it will be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Paragraph 3.8, delivery of the council's new recycling service. I'm aware that Councillor Andy Fear wishes to speak. Do any other members wish to raise any comments or questions? John Williams. Councillor Andy Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to re-echo what my colleague Councillor Hutton said earlier on about the success of the new waste service coming in, and equally I strongly re-echo our thanks to the people working on recycling. We tend to take recycling as for granted, really. It's not a particularly glamorous job, I suppose. I mean, it's a very, very necessary one, and had our crews not worked through the current crisis, we would be in a much worse position than we are. So I think we owe them all a very great thank you at this point. Those things having been said, to come back to our new system, one of the changes, of course, was to bring in a subscription system for the garden waste. There was quite a lot of doomsaying about this at the time, as I recall. And a lot of that was about how we would be swamped with fly tipping of garden waste and such like. So I'd just like to ask the leader, or who he chooses to depute, whether in fact that doomsaying has come to pass. Has there been an increase in such fly tipping?
Councillor John Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Councillor. Question is about recycling. Why is this air conditioning recycling cold air into this room? I should have brought it up on the air quality, but it's bloody freezing in here. Excuse the language. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Taking that question first, I agree with you, John. It's getting colder by the minute, so perhaps we'll move on in a minute, but to get this meeting concluded. But I'll hand over in a minute to Councillor Johnson for that question about the garden waste possible fly tipping and the scare stories that were put about when we brought the system in. But I think just on the whole new system coming in, I think it's a great advance and has been welcomed by the residents. More opportunities to recycle in an easier way and in a cleaner way. And I think the bins and the bag have gone down very well, and the introduction of the food waste again to show that we've got a really good recycling service that can deliver not only for our residents, but also it's better for the staff for them to operate that service in the old box system, which was always on the verge of collapse. We'll hand over to Councillor Johnson for any comment on the fly tipping issue.
Sorry about that, gentlemen. No, we've had no noticeable cases of fly tipping in the borough. There was one area that became a high waste problem, and they sorted it. So we were all right there. But no, we are collecting, let's say, the same amount of garden waste than when it was a free service. And over 21,000 residents have signed up for the paid service. And I'm saying we're collecting the same amount as when it was free. So we're picking up all the garden waste, basically, and we don't have a problem with fly tipping.
Thank you. Paragraph 4, the forward plan. Do any members have any comments or questions on the forward plan, please? Councillor Johnson, please.
Yeah, it's not really a question, but a comment just to note that every time you go into the forward plan, it loops you back to the brief synopsis without any forward plan being available on the website whatsoever. I first commented on this several months ago when we last met, and it's still the case now. So you can't actually see the forward plan.
Councillor Simon Tagg.
I think there's when I tried this link when on the PDF version of this, it went through to a page which you get down a menu, which gives you obviously the option to view the forward plan or the one before this. So I think we'll check it's working, but thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Any more speakers on paragraph 4? No, thank you. Item 18, reports of chairs and regulatory committees. A copy of Chair's report for the Auditing Standards Committee held on 1st of May, 27th of July 2020 can be found on page 121 to 122 of your electronic agenda. This report is tabled this evening for members attending in person. A copy of Chair's report for the Planning Committee and Licensed Public Committee meetings held on the Council on the last meet can be found in your supplementary electronic agenda pack and has been tabled this evening for members attending in person. These reports are for information and noting. Can the reports be received? Thank you. Item 19, reports of the chairs of the scrutiny committees. Written reports are on your agenda pack for the Economic Environment and Place Scrutiny Committee and Health and Wellbeing and Partnership Scrutiny Committee. A verbal update with Finance, Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Mark Holland will give you your update, please. Councillor Mark Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the cancellation of scheduled meetings due to the coronavirus pandemic, the committee met remotely with reduced numbers on the 25th of June to receive a report on the administration's response to the pandemic. The committee met again last Thursday, again remotely and with a reduced membership. It is my hope that it will be possible for the full membership of the committee to meet in order to carry out detailed pre-cabinet budget scrutiny at its next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. These reports here are for information and noting. Please can the reports be received? Item 20, questions to the Mayor and Cabinet and committee members. I've received 2 questions for the Leader and Cabinet members. These have been tabled this evening for your supplementary agenda. Have also been sent to the members attending this meeting remotely. Members are asked to read out the question, after which I will ask the Leader of the relevant Cabinet member to respond. The member asking the questions may ask a supplementary question. Could I remind members that they have a supplementary question? It must be a question and not a statement, and it must be concise, focused, and relate to the subject matter of the initial question and answer. Thank you. Can I have a question, please? Councillor Brian Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is written.
Can you read out the question because for the,
Okay.
for the camera, please?
The Nutton Community Centre is an important resource at the heart of the Nutton community and home to such vital community support groups such as the Nutton and Silverdale Out of Hours School Club, the Nutton Residents Association and the Nutton Youth Centre, and several sports and social clubs in the area. In February, the community centre was forced to close due to the need for significant repairs to take place, repairs that were first highlighted with the Borough Council in November 2019. Could the Cabinet member confirm the following? What actions have been taken to ensure the repairs were completed swiftly since they were first reported to officers in November 2019 by the Community Centre Management Group? What support has the Borough Council offered to these vital community groups to find an alternative venue within Nutton whilst the community centre has been closed? And what actions would the Cabinet member now take to ensure a swift solution to these issues in order for these vital services to once again be fully available to the families in Nutton?
Can I ask Councillor Waring to reply, please?
No, can you not hear? It's not working.
Yes, working.
The thing is, I'm so cold, my nose is running, so I wanted to leave it down.
I'm warm.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Johnson, for the question. Three questions, actually. So point number one, the Council's facilities team investigated the Centre's Management Committee's concerns about the building repairs and subsequently commissioned a structural engineer to determine the cause of the building failure. As a result, a specification was developed and quotations for the work were obtained as soon as practicable to do so. Point number two, the Management Committee of Nutton Community Centre have been contacted by officers, requested the contact details and requirements of the users of the centre, and officers will now work with the users and partner agencies, etc., in an attempt to find potential alternative venues. And point number three, Councillor Johnson, as you were aware from officers' recent communications with you, further information is required concerning the extent of the repairs of the Nutton Community Centre. Officers are progressing this. However, given the financial situation the council finds itself in, no guarantee can be given if and when these works will be completed at this stage. Stock condition reports have been provided across the council's obligations as an authority. They are used to inform the council of an estimate of works required, but are not guaranteed work programmes to address straight away. These are just estimates. At a time of unprecedented financial pressure enforced upon the council and significantly reduced receipts due to the impact of COVID-19, the council must prioritise its spending on repairs and works on a case-by-case basis. The £247,000 figure would be in addition to any internal works that may be required, with an additional estimate cost of £18,000. So the total figure would be £265,000, assuming everything went to plan. If any further work was found to be necessary, this would represent a significant additional risk in terms of expenditure. Regrettably, the council cannot afford to cover all the potential repairs and work flagged up by the stock condition reports at one time. This was not a decision made lightly, and of course this may change in the future when we look at this again. Once this council, like many other councils nationally, recover from the shared economic position it finds itself in. I'd just like to add that before this administration took over, the council was failing to plan. This had directly contributed to the financial constraints we find ourselves in facing today. And this administration has proposed through previous cabinet reports that it will proceed in a prudent manner and aims to spend within its means. We will not expose the council to further risks, but will provide the maximum value for money for our borough. I've asked the officers to keep me informed of any progress made about the community centre. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Tagg, you wish to respond? Councillor Johnson, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. Many of these groups have continued to have to pay significant funding to carry on and have lost lots of funding, including the out of our school, who will have to re-register with Ofsted at significant cost to the group. They've also had to continue to pay electricity and pat testing in order to run. Will the Cabinet member please then write to all of the groups personally in order to reassure them that she has their full support in finding an alternative? And in the event that they are incurring significant costs and have some difficulties with Ofsted, for example, will she be supporting them to speaking to those groups in order to carry on their function?
Council, please. John.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yes, of course, I will write to them to reassure them, and we will have try and support them with the costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. The next question to Councillor Elizabeth Shenton and Ruth Wright regarding the swimming pool at J2. I can ask either Councillor Shenton or Wright to ask the question. One of you please answer the question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is to the portfolio holder for leisure, culture and heritage. Please could the portfolio holder provide an update to the council on the main swimming pool at J2? In an email to all members on the 26th of August, and then under agenda item 4 on the cabinet meeting held on the 9th of September, we learned that the pool was temporarily out of use. As Town Ward councillors, we are seeking reassurance that the issue will be remedied quickly, as there is growing concern that the problems may be more significant, resulting in a longer term closure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jill Waring.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton and Wright, for this question. On the 18th of August 2020, officers of the council took the regrettable decision to close the main pool at Jubilee 2 due to a significant loss of water. The council's retained pool contractor, Sterling Hydrotech, attended the site and over a period of 2 days identified that the leak was not associated with the pool filtration system, but they did identify that the most likely cause of the leak was to be a fracture in the pipework which runs around the pool. In the following weeks, Sterling Hydrotech undertook various non-intrusive surveys using camera and gas trace systems and to find the precise location of the leak, which was identified to be at the deep end of the pool. Subsequently, officers instructed Sterling Hydrotech to undertake the repair works to the pool, and this work commenced on the 14th of September with an anticipated completion date of 18th of September 2020. On the 17th of September, Sterling Hydrotech informed us that there were more leaks than they had originally been identified due to the fact that the pool pipework failed the recommissioning test. At this stage, officers determined that the time was right to hand the problem over to Morgan Sindall, who completed the original construction of Jubilee 2, to take over the responsibility for the repairs with immediate effect. It should be noted that at the request of officers, representatives from Morgan Sindall have attended Jubilee 2 at key stages to witness the work carried out by Sterling Hydrotech. On the 22nd of September, yesterday, officers met with senior representatives from Morgan Sindall, who subsequently have agreed to develop their proposals to rectify the pool leak. These proposals, which I think have been submitted late today to officers to consider and or agree during week of 28th of September 2020, upon agreement of Morgan Sindall's proposal, both elected members and the customers of Jubilee 2 will then be provided with a time frame of when the council can expect the pool to reopen. And just since this administration came in December 2017, we started the task of putting right some of the issues with Jubilee 2, including leaking roofs and defective sauna suite, and we will continue to make sure that Jubilee 2 is a flagship facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. Councillor, do you have any supplementary question?
It's just obviously digesting that news, because that's news to me, and I'm sure news to the rest of the council, with it being so, and just having been received by the portfolio holder herself. And so I just wondered what arrangement has been made in the interim for classes and school swims now that school is back. And then in terms of funding, will council be advised of how much this is going to cost, and could we have reassurance that there's money in the budget to be able to fund the repairs? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waring.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton. Obviously, the learner pool is still open at the moment, so any lessons that can carry on in there will be going on as usual. I As for the finances, I will speak to the officers and I will put a reply to you in writing if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I've not been made aware of any petition to be handed in this evening. Anybody in petitions? Check. No, thank you. Urgent business. I have not received any urgent business. This concludes the business this evening, and just before I close the meeting, I would like to thank everybody involved in preparing this evening's meeting, which I think has gone really well, except the Mayor's mistakes. Well, I'm learning. I'd like to wish everyone present in the room a safe journey home, and remind you to take everything with you brought with you again. Please use sanitizer to clean your seats. Just give your seats a wipe down, make sure there's no, you got to think of the staff, they don't know infections passing to them. So please clean the chairs before you go, please. Then leave the building immediately rather than congregating at the meeting is closed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All rise.
Oh, standing on the coat.